Hey, I just thought I'd make a quick video. Got up this morning and was like, I want to fix this Fancybox thing. So I popped over to Media Monkey. I was actually doing an update for some new movies anyway. And it's like trying to do some time savers and did that. And then it's like, I got to make this thing cleanly work for whatever reason. So I explored a little bit with it. And does have some good differences between itself and the Birds of Bhutan. But I thought I'd capture what I realized this morning and share with you since you worked with me so hard on that issue the other day. And although I don't know if it's going to be able to be resolved with Birds of Bhutan, at least I can point out this coming in from a raw thing, bringing it in was pretty straightforward. Uh, so first, let me show you the results, and that's probably the most interesting stuff because I like seeing it work. So I just push this up. If you go to MediaMonkeyCoop.herokuapp.com, you can do this too. I am logged in as an admin, but I think most of these things work, admin or not. And anyway, you can always get that if you want. So just go into the home. I think this is here. So this is just the first movie, 10,000 BC. I click on it. It's showing a medium-sized image. It's now got the little finger pointy guy because it's actually an image tag, an A tag. And I go click, and boom, Fancybox brings up the big 10,000 BC full-size poster. That's a large in our little world. I go to the next video. You get the kid movie. The kid movies are, well, actually 10,000 BC probably is too, but this is what you're going to get used to. All right, so then you get 101 Dalmatians too. You're like, yeah, Fancybox. This guy, look at that. They're a little different sizes. That's because what you find scrapping around in the interwebs often changes. 127 hours is just awesome. And then here, little 12 monkeys, not quite big enough. But here's an interesting thing. What I love about the Fancybox is, well, first, let's inspect the element real fast. So we got a smaller page here, and the element is for the image tag. So the little guy that's local, but it's wrapped by the A tag. And the A tag goes off to what will be the large. I'm sure there's large, and over here is the medium. Key thing is that the A tag's class is Fancybox. That's it. Nothing special about it. We'll look at this comment later. It comes up in the code. But here, this is Fancybox cool thing. Well, that's probably not a good example again. It's a pretty small guy, but let's go back to the previous one. So 127 hours. Boom. Fancybox knows the size it can fit in, independent of the largest thing I told it. So that when I do that, get rid of the display element stuff. That's just too cool. Love that you get that kind of behavior for free. Let me go back to this inspect element thing. All right. So looking at that, let's go look at the source code that generated that. So the first thing, this is where I really started with this one because I knew what Brian had sent the other day was like, that's fine, that should be working, and that's what I reduced the BOB thing to. So I commented out what was previously working. That's why we just saw the comment in the inspect thing. The image tag by itself, which is just like, show them a medium one. But I'm really not happy with that. I'd like sometimes to see something bigger. So I wanted a link to the larger image. So leaves it, the syntax is go ahead and put the image tag there that you're going to show. And whatever you're going to put, you could put text there. And then the href portion. And then the class. And it works just in dandy. So this nice colon medium colon large version with the symbols is thanks to Paperclip. It has that nice function, and depending on the styles you define for the thing, in this case an image, it knows to interpret these things. Awesome stuff. Anyway, that seems to work fine. The only other thing that was needed, or so I thought up front, was to go ahead and add in that same code. And by the way, I had much more code here before, if you remember BOB. But I reduced it down to just what was needed for this project, right? So there was, first of all, Flex Slider. It was complaining. I was watching thanks to Inspect Element in the console, I could see that I had Flex Slider in here because I just cut and paste. And of course, Flex Slider was not known. Coincidentally, Fancybox wasn't known originally, and you probably knew all this, but I wouldn't. And I realized, like, wait a minute, I don't have the jQuery, well, the Fancybox JS nor the Flex Slider JS around, and I didn't have their CSS around. So rather than go there and start manually pulling them in, which is what I was going to do initially, because we'd had such a horrendous experience with it, I thought, I started searching, and I very quickly found, here's the Fancybox thing, went right back to the gem file with Fancybox 2 Rails, which is something I'd seen in a sample. And I read through this and I'm like, you know, you bring in the gem rather than the files, and then you make sure in both the application JS and the application CSS, or in my case, application CSS SAS, that you do the require fancy boxes, right? And that's it. And then you do this reference to some magical JS that you have somewhere, which is again this thing, which I'm not too sure I appreciate why that's got to be, but that's okay. Why that can't just be a default behavior once you've included the fancy box stuff, but whatever. Like the CSS. Anyway, so sorry, I digress. So that guy's there. So I went ahead and I followed the instructions of that. So I went in my gem file and simply, incorporated this little statement, including their little version number. I just cut and paste. And I just say that went to the application JS, boom, Fancybox, CSS. So yeah, so there's our require Fancybox stuff. All right, so anyway, that was it. And then at that point, the running of the, without even restarting the server, reloading the pages allowed for Fancybox to take over and do its thing. So that was all very exciting. One other little comment. So I have this coffee, MMC Helpers coffee, which I get so frustrated, the difference between CoffeeScript and JavaScript, because I think I'm unfamiliar with both, obviously, that I just kept a different helper here, which is if I have JavaScript that I've found and I want to use, I keep it in that form. And if I, found some CoffeeScript, I use that, and it's working for me. That was something else I did this morning, which make why this is so ugly looking with the copy to clipboard. I won't bother you with that, all that's about. And then Googling for the poster, which I found to be pretty handy too. That just saves me some typing if I'm doing stuff, so it works pretty well. Anyway, that's about all I got. What I thought I'd do from here is check out Flex Slider merged with this, although in this particular application I really don't have a purpose for it, right? So, but that'll be fine. Let's see. Boop. I love Fancybox. All right, that is all. Talk to you soon.